looks like we got us another jigsaw puzzle this year.
I really thought we were done with air compressors.
I swore I was done with air compressors too, but that's the only way this system will work. It's not going to be hydraulically operated, unfortunately.
I don't know where we're going to put it. It's a big old compressor.
Yeah, I don't know where exactly we're going to put it either. Anyway guys, what we got here is about $20,000 worth of precision planting parts. Hopefully these parts will solve some of the problems we saw during our cotton planting last year, and hoping to help ensure that we get a good stand this coming up year, that our planter will be able to adapt to almost any condition we can face. One of the problems that we found last year is that our strip kill strips did not die all that well in some of the fields. Had a really thick layer of cover crop that we had to plant through. We didn't get the seed trenches closed good, which then combined with the 3 weeks of terrible weather that we had after planting created a virtual highway to an all-you-can-eat buffet for slugs last spring, which caused us to lose a lot of our cotton stand and a lot of things that worked against cotton last year. But that was the first thing that happened, and it kind of compounded everything else that happened later on in the system. So what we got over here is a new closing system from Precision Planting called FurrowForce, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to replace all of these closing wheels on our back 12 rows with these. These are a lot heavier duty, but also instead of having a spring that you just manually set to get down pressure, they've got an airbag on them, plus they got a load cell so they can monitor how much pressure is on the gauge tire going throughout the field. And if the gauge tire is not touching the ground, that means your seed trench is probably not getting closed, and it can automatically adjust the air pressure to either give you more downforce or less downforce, just depending on what the conditions are. So that's going to be step number one. Then we've also got clean sweep over there, and basically what that's going to be is going to be an air cylinder on our row cleaners here that we can also adjust from the cab to either take some down pressure off of our row cleaners. We can actually raise them all the way up, or what I'm really interested in, we can actually add more down pressure to these row cleaners. So if we do come into spots where we got really thick mats of cover crop, I can add a little air to the cylinder, force these things down to dig a little bit more and scrape the cover crop away to where we got a nice clean seed bed for the double disc openers to operate in. Pretty hefty price tag on this, but guarantee you if I'd had this system last year, it would have paid for itself in 1 year. So don't want another repeat of last year, and hopefully this will allow us to be able to adapt to almost any kind of plant condition we will see on our ground and in the cover crops that we plant into. The only problem is we just don't really know where to start. Zach's getting them all sorted out.
We got mountain brackets for the FurrowForce to adapt it to the Kinze Planter here. That is our hydraulic cylinders for the row cleaners. These are the mountain kits for the row cleaners. And then all the lovely airlines and hydraulic or electronic tie-ins.
I think the best place to start is we'll pull all the closing arms off, and then we'll install these closing arms, and then we'll start piecing all the hardware and lines together, and probably save the air compressor for last. Let me chew on it for a little while, try and figure out the best place to mount it. All right, let me get a time lapse set up and we'll get started on it. All right, we weren't joking when we said this thing was going to be a jigsaw puzzle. Literally, we had multiple brackets here that fit together just like a puzzle. I had to take this thing apart probably about 5 different times because I have wrongly bolts somewhere, or had something not right, or holes wouldn't line up, so I had to loosen it all back up together. But anyway, what we're looking at here is the finished product. Still got to tighten up our closing this here, but see, we got an airbag here. This is the air control module here. We don't have the air lines or the cabling run yet. We got cable here for the load sensor on the rear wheels, but we're gonna wait and get all these installed first, and then we'll get the air compressor mounted, and then we'll run all the air lines and get it all zip tied up nice together. So this is where we're going to stop on this unit, and then we'll move on to do the other 11 units. And once we get there, then we'll start running electronics and the airlines.
You ain't even seen the best part of these things.
What's that?
No more wrenches to pull the. They have slotted grooves for each position that hold the nuts.
I gotta say, I mean, I've been very impressed with the other precision planting stuff that we put on, and the fit and finish of this stuff and how heavily it's built. I'm very impressed with. Now, I do think these brackets right here, they could have made that into just a one-piece bracket instead of having 6 different pieces that you had to bolt together. I think they could have made that into one piece, and it'd probably been stouter, been a lot easier to install. But overall, I mean, this sucker,
it's got some weight to it.
this sucker's heavy. I can about guarantee you that once we get this thing aired up, I can set this planter down here in the shop, and it'd probably fill in them cracks in the concrete right there.
They're about the most aggressive furrow closers I've ever seen.
It's almost like having a strip till rig right behind the planter. I think it's really going to do the job. But anyway, we're 2 hours into this project. We still got a long ways to go, but at least we got some things figured out now. Well, Zach, our parts supply has dwindled drastically.
A lot quicker than I thought it would.
We got all the FurrowForce mounted up on the back. Everything looks good. Zach's been working on getting the clean sweep cylinders and hardware mounted, and got about half a day tomorrow before we leave to go to the farm show in Louisville. And
let's go!
Carter's ready to go.
Yeah, you get 2.5 days out of school, I'd be ready to go too.
I reckon tomorrow morning I'm going to turn attention to figuring out where the heck I'm going to mount that air compressor, because our toolbar is full of hydraulic hoses and wiring, vacuum lines, and really don't have a good clean spot. So I'm going to chew on it tonight, decide what we're going to do. But it's time to call it a day, and we'll bring you back here in the morning. I got about a half a day to work on this planter today. I got to cut out for Louisville. Our goals today, hopefully we can get the last of the clean sweep cylinders mounted, all that hardware up. See, I've gone through the rear units here, checking bearings and stuff, and we got a few, I think we got like 3 discs where the bearings are getting a little play. We got them marked. Probably go through the front units next week after I get back and see how many bearings we need up there before we make a parts run and checking on that. What I'm going to try to do this morning is figuring out exactly where this air compressor is going to mount. The air compressor is hydraulically ran, so I know I want to mount it up here on the toolbar and tie into hydraulic supply, probably from the Delta Force in the alternator. It's only requiring about 5 gallons of hydraulic flow per minute to run that stuff, whereas our vacuum fan requires around 19 or 20 gallons per minute of hydraulic flow. So I don't want to tie into the fan circuit. I want to tie into the alternator and the Delta Force circuit. All right, up under here is my alternator to help supply the electricity to run all the electric meters and everything. Just kind of supplements to what the tractor alternator does. And then here's our valve block for the Delta Force. Here's our supply lines for that, so I want to tie into this, probably put some T's on right there, but not exactly sure where I want to mount that air compressor. Our toolbar is pretty full right now of wiring harnesses, hydraulic lines, and everything else. So what I'm thinking is maybe this hole right here, add some braces for the air compressor to rest on. I think there's enough room there, plus it'll be real close to the hydraulic supply. Won't have to run it real far. And I know I don't want to put it way out on either end, because that would make the frame unbalanced whenever the thing's raised up in transport position. Might make it harder to fold up or whatnot. That air compressor is not too light. Another option is I could build a cradle right here on this top toolbar, but that'd be pretty up there and exposed a little bit. That's probably going to be option number 2. Option number 1 is going to be down there. But I just got to wait for the salesman to bring the brackets to mount that air compressor. He had a set of brackets for Kinze Planter. I don't quite know what they look like. He forgot to bring them out the other day. So that's where we're at right now. All right, I think I got a plan on the best place to mount this thing. This cavity, kind of where my head is kind of where I'm going to mount it. But if you look, got this brace right here that's in the way where I can't mount it down here, so I need to mount it above this brace, right here above the brace. Be a lot lower than it will be up there. It'll kind of be tucked in here and protected or whatever. So these brackets right here is what the salesman brought me, and these are designed to actually mount this thing on the very front part of the tongue. And I mean, it could work up there, but in order to mount it up there, because this thing takes hydraulic power to run, and I'm going to drive it off an existing circuit, I'd have to pull 2 hydraulic hoses all the way out from the tongue, where it comes down the tongue, through the tongue, up the center post, and all that, and have a T put in. That's a huge pain in the butt that I don't want to do. And then it would still mean running air lines all the way back here too, and don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these brackets and I'm going to modify them. Take a plasma cutter and cut these ears off right here to where I just got this piece of channel iron with the mounting holes in it. And then I'm going to take this 1-inch square tubing right here and build a, kind of a channel shaped bracket right there to help raise the frame up over that cross member. And then I'm going to weld these to the horseshoe frame, and then I'll be able to bolt the air compressor to that. And then it'll still be tucked in there, be up away from everything, and there'll be a real short supply line that I need to run from my Delta Force to the air compressor. So I think I got all my measurements right, so time to do some cutting and welding. got the finished brackets here. Zach, can you give me a hand? I want to get that air compressor bolted up on these brackets like it needs to be, and then we use a forklift to set it all down there in the frame, and I can weld it up then, and should be square and true. All right, Hope. All right, now sharp turn to your left.
Light.
You're good, man. Come straight forward a little. Oh. All right, hard left. Crank it back.
Back up?
No, tilt back. All right, tilt forward.
Down a little?
No. No, it's freaking braces in my way.
Ain't gonna be able to get on the clutch, is it?
I want to take one of these sets of legs off and reconfigure it. I mean, this is going to work. It's just my legs are not configured right, and it's catching on the brace here.
Yeah.
I mean, once I configure that, I mean, what we're doing will do it just fine. All right, after a little reconfiguring, try this again. All right, pick it up just a hair. Oh. All right, down. I'm gonna need to persuade it a little bit with a hammer. All right, come on down. All right, shut it off. All right, that has got it in place. It's just a little cockeyed. We're going to straighten it up a little bit, and we'll tack weld the legs to the frame. And we should have us a good mounting point for that air compressor. Well, there she is, mounted in place. Well, I hated having to mess up that pretty blue Kinze powder coating job right there. First time I've had to do it on this planter, but we'll get it cleaned up and slap some rattle can blue on there. All right, well, I guess we got all the hardware mounted up, don't we? Don't have any more parts left over there. Got the hardest part out of the way, got the air compressor mounted. Been chewing on that for for a day. Don't have to worry about that now. Now all we got left is just electrical, air hoses, and a couple hydraulic lines, and we'll be done with it. But that's going to be all for today. I got to make tracks for Louisville for the farm show, and we'll get back on it Monday morning. See if we can get this thing wrapped up in another couple days.